Hello and welcome to the Intentional Brief, your weekly video update on the one big thing in cybersecurity news for middle market companies, their investors, and management teams. I'm your host, Shay Colson, managing partner at Intentional Cybersecurity, and you can find us online at intentionalcyber.com. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025, and it is time this week for a bit of a reality check. There is a BBC article making the rounds that carries this headline, quote, "Weak password allowed hackers to sink a 158-year-old company," unquote. The article details KNP, a British Northamptonshire transport company that was running a fleet of about 500 trucks when they were hit by the Akira ransomware gang in 2023. The article goes on to say, quote, "The company said its IT complied with industry standards and it had taken out insurance against cyber attack," unquote. And then the article even offers what I think is aimed at being a sympathetic quote, noting, quote, "KNP Director Paul Abbott says he hasn't told the employee that their compromised password most likely led to the destruction of the company," end quote. But I think the truth is that wasn't what led to it, right? That may have been the straw that broke the camel's back. It may have been the initial compromise vector for the ransomware gang. But as always in cyber, there's more to the story, such as where were your phishing protections? How about the training to help users identify and report these types of emails? What was the multi-factor authentication requirements set up like during that time to limit the impact of a breached credential? How about endpoint monitoring? Were they running a modern endpoint detection and response platform with 24/7 coverage and auto-isolation playbooks deployed? How about network segmentation being in place across the enterprise so that the blast radius for this malicious activity could have been contained? How about backups of your infrastructure and systems? Were they offline and air-gapped? Were they running regularly? Had they been tested? Any or all of these controls would have reduced the impact of that click, of that exposed credential, or any of these other kind of cascading failures that ultimately led to the downfall of this company. And I think that's the lesson that we should take away here. These are systemic failures, not failures of an individual control or an individual employee. If your enterprise can go under with a single compromised credential, then you just haven't built a resilient enough enterprise. I think it's curious to me when I read this article that there's no mention of the controls that were in place beyond the fact that they were compliant with industry standards, which really aren't a thing, particularly in the trucking industry. And also, why didn't that cyber insurance policy help you out? Why didn't they pay out? Why weren't you able to lean on that? Again, there's always more to this story, but the moral for us, the takeaway for us, is that we need to work to build these robust technical, administrative, and physical controls so that we do have a resilient enterprise that can withstand the threats and risks that we can reasonably anticipate in 2025 and beyond, whether we're a brand new company or we've been doing it for 150 years. From a fundraising perspective, quiet week where I did not see any fundraising announcements over the past few days. Doesn't mean they didn't happen, just that they weren't newsworthy enough to cross my desk, and even fundraisers have to take vacations sometimes. As a reminder, you can find back issues to these videos at intentionalcyber.com. Down below in the comments section, you'll find the link to the BBC article, and we will see you next week for another edition of the Intentional Brief.